My name is Mariana Martindale. I am a doctorate candidate for higher education leadership. I am also the founder and CEO of ALMA Empower Her, and also an author of children's book.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. So I was born in Puerto Rico, came here at probably like 10 years old, been in Philly ever since. I went to Esperanza College, that's where my love for education started. And to fast forward, I'm here obtaining my doctorate degree. In less than a year, I should have my doctorate degree. It is surrounds around belonging and amplifying Latina women's voices in leadership.
Wonderful. And tell us about the journey of, coming from Puerto Rico to Philadelphia. How was that?
The journey, I would say, was challenging, especially with the language barrier. Coming here and not knowing no English, to then assimilating along the way, to fit being an American, right? Even though we are Americans, but kind of silencing the Spanish language to fit in spaces.
Do you come from a big family?
Yes, I do. I have 14 aunts and uncles.
Oh my God.
Yeah. My mom, I have two older brothers, and I'm the youngest one from two older brothers.
So now let's touch on the inspiration behind education and leadership. Obviously, I think, for a lot of Latino families, education is like the one thing that, we're kind of forced to go to because education is sort of the key, to a better future. And that's the reason why most, families have to migrate to, other places.
Right.
So how was your experience and what led to thinking of education?
My experience, well, education has always been fundamental at home. Like my mom said, if you get an education, you get a good job, right? And I think I experienced after having my high school diploma, I didn't have anything at the time, and I didn't have much opportunities for me towards employment. And it wasn't until I've been in spaces where I've been in meetings with like other leaders that inspired me to like, okay, I need more than a high school diploma to fit in, to have a voice and to be heard. And that's what I did. And here I am today. Like I have a voice, I have platforms that allow me to voice those experiences.
And was there a moment when, I feel like you've kind of taken it further, right? Like it's not just about the career, like this is your passion, your calling, right? Was there a moment when you said like, you know what, this is what I want to do?
Yes, I think my whole life has been that moment. It wasn't like a one day thing or like a one experience. It's been a whole journey of like years, a decade of lived experience of imposter syndrome. Growing up, I didn't have a lot of role models that mirror that leadership. And so being a first generation student, it was very challenging and also isolating. Mm-hmm. And going through that experience alone is where ALMA was born. I don't think Latinas should navigate leadership and higher education alone. So it was very challenging.
What, you mentioned a few identities, right? Mm-hmm. Your mother, a Boricua, first generation, American. Are any of those identities, one of the factors of why you've decided to, to look at your leadership and education as your North Star?
I think all of them. There's not one specific, right? Because in each role, there is a leadership component to it. There's not like a one way kind of, way to look at it, but more like a cohesive of all of them incorporated that allow me to go beyond, beyond like, after getting, the associates, the bachelor's, the master's, now the doctorate. I know there's a lot of obstacles that we do face. And for whatever reason, I feel like my job is to amplify the voices of other Latinas that might feel stuck for whatever reason it is. And I want them to see myself as a role model so they could be able to be like, she could do it, I could do it. There's nothing like holding me back.
Well, I think you mentioned something important. Oftentimes we're told that you have to fit in a box. You have to pick one thing. And I think your way of seeing things like holistically, like no, you can be all these things that you want to be
Yes.
because you have all these sort of superpowers. Put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, I agree. You don't have to like fit in the box, like how you said. We are powerful women. We are very resilient, and we push through. And we're good at everything, every role that we play, every hat we wear. We're good at all of them. We could be all of them at the same time.
So you're a PhD candidate. How has that journey been?
That journey still is very challenging because you go from summary writing to another type of academic writing that I have no clue what that is, or anyone at home that I could be like, hey, what does this mean? What this feedback from my dissertation chair is giving me, what does that mean? So it's always like extra research on top of my initial research to kind of self-teach. And I think, now that I know those are the barriers of a first gen, right? You're like the one paving the way for everyone else to come through, but that one person is actually paving the way, doesn't have the support, is very challenging, but also rewarding because I see my self-growth in the academic space and how I'm already thinking ahead, like, okay, once I finish my doctorate, let me see how I could apply and put myself as a dissertation chair, which means I get to help other students, hopefully Latina students, with their dissertation and their defense.
What keeps you motivated? In school can be, very, very difficult.
It is.
And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So what motivates you?
I always been a go-getter, always wanted more. I never settled for just, I want ABC. Or like, I want to know more. I want to know what else is out there for me. And I know there's more. So I've always been a go-getter. I want more.
And now ALMA, let's talk about ALMA. Tell us what it is, and then I want to hear, why.
Okay. So ALMA was born, so it's ALMA Empower Her. So ALMA stands for Advancing Latinas Through Mentorship and Achievement. And that was born from my lived experience as a first-generation student. Oftentimes, being a first-generation student is a very lonely journey, but also rewarding at the same time. And I believe that had ALMA been in place when I first started school, I think my educational journey would have been much smoother than rocky and a whole roller coaster. So now that I'm almost completed with my program, I created ALMA to help the other Latinas see themselves in spaces there where I'm going and the endless opportunities for them. Like sometimes some of us could be stuck in like a little bubble and we don't see how much more is out there for them. So I want to give Latinas, the platform and the tools they need to be able to get across that stage, to get across commencement, to wear the finest outfit you could wear, which is a cap and gown. I want them to have that.
Yeah. And what does the name mean to you? Obviously alma meaning like soul in Spanish.
So I wanted to have a word there that means, right? Soul, because alma comes from my soul. It comes from my isolated days doing homework, which I have no idea what I was doing when I'm typing this essay or this paper, but it also has so much reward and achievement along the way. So I needed to have that soul to be able to push through those barriers.
What, eventually in the future, like how do you see this platform growing and what do you hope?
Impact. When I hear you say that, I just have one word. It says impact. I want to impact as many women, but also Latina women. There's a lot of us, dealing with imposter syndrome, and imposter syndrome is its own incarceration facet, So helping them dismantle that imposter syndrome. And once that dismantle happens, they could see themselves beyond.
And now going back to Philly and the community, like yourself, like I'm also a transplant. I, didn't grow up in Philly, but Philly has been a city that has so much to offer. There's, a lot of opportunities, but you have to like work hard. You can't just expect to move here and everything is just gonna come down. So how has the city been for you and working in this community?
So obviously, I miss my homeland because nothing would never be like your home. However, Philly became my second home, and Philly has been the place where I built the most character because it's not a place that you can be like, whenever, cuando pueda. No, here you have to build that backbone or it's going to give you that backbone. So I grew that backbone here, and it's given me so many opportunities for academic growth, employment growth. And there's, like you said, there is a lot of resources here. You just have to step out of that complacency and tap into these resources and see, how I could help you. So I tapped into all of them, to say the least. I wasn't afraid.
Tell me some of your favorite Philly things.
So it's funny you say that because as much as Philly has given me the character, I am a homebody. Besides cheesesteaks, I love my cheesesteaks, but I am a homebody. I'd rather be home reading books, writing books, cooking, listening to music, and just being home, seeing what else I'm going to decorate the house.
Wow. Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So now let's talk about, your younger self, like what would you say to yourself 10 years ago, when you didn't really know where you were headed and, sort of the career that you've built and the platform, your education?
I would tell myself, you're worthy. You're worthy. Because ALMA is born from imposter syndromes. Not hearing often enough that you're worthy, you belong in spaces. Your language is not a barrier, but a tool. And I would say to my younger self, you're worthy. And just like every other Latina here that's dealing with imposter syndrome or think that maybe they're not smart enough for school or they can't finish school, they are worthy.
And something that people will be able to feel soon is another special project that you're working on, and that is, a children's book. It's bilingual picture book, The Colors of My Voice. Tell us about that.
I like how you said that. Yes, it's called The Colors of My Voice. And I wanted to extend my dissertation research further out. I wanted to reach all Latina women, even little Latina girls, all women, of course, but Latina women, but then also Latina little girls. So I'm thinking in my house, like, how can I extend my dissertation for little girls? I can't give them my academic, dissertation. It is. So I decided to put into picture what the dissertation entails, and it's all about belonging, identity, resilience, and culture. And I'll tell you a little bit. There's only one author, one character in the book. Her name is Aurelia. And Aurelia was very timid and shy. And as she started to speak little words here and there, throughout her journey, she learned that each experience, a new color emerged. So by the time she got to a place of leadership, also as a doctor, she's seen the rainbow. She's seen that every experience, every sentence, every dream, every speech, anything she did that allowed her to speak, a new color emerged. So eventually she had all the colors of the rainbow. So that's a little bit. So I want to plant that seed in little girls and little Latina girls so they could have that armor before they face the real world and what the real world might give them, which, you don't belong. The language is a problem or is not accepted. Before the world gives them the opposite, I want them to go into the world knowing who they are, that they belong, and they don't come out there with that imposter syndrome.
Have you seen a change in the education system since you started to now in terms of representation? how do you see the, sort of the landscape?
I do see. So once I finished my undergrad, because there was a lot of representation in undergrad, the enrollment also has increased. But when I got beyond my undergrad, that's when I started to see less and less students enrolled in the program, and even less representation, professors, deans, leadership, you know. So I see that there was a problem there. There was a gap there. Something happened between undergrad and now graduate school. So I did see that there was a problem there. And that's a little bit of one of my challenges a little bit now, is just I don't see anybody that can embody or know, like even with my paper. So my dissertation paper is on the underrepresentation of Latina in higher education leadership. So my defense is on the lack of Latina women in higher education. And so here, my committee board are the opposite of who I am. So it's hard to identify the struggles, the lived experience if no one there looks like me.
Do you see yourself continuing this work, beyond your degree? It's just making me think of, corporate America, certain professions as well, where, we're not seeing specifically Latina representation, CEOs, Fortune 500. I don't even think we have any
Right.
Latinas as of right now. If maybe one, but in politics.
Right. I do. And it's funny you say you use the word politics, because I've never been into politics. Pero in the space that I'm in, that I'm about representation and belonging and dismantling imposter syndrome, there's a little bit of politics that has to go with that, right? Even though I try to stay away from it, but if I'm here to amplify the voices of Latina women in the Latino community, there has to be some politics in there, And one of the services that ALMA is emerging is civic classes. So civic classes, not just for women, but women and men. So helping them how to navigate the system or the process they have to go to be citizens, with English classes and everything that they need to know with the U.S. government, like history. So helping them, right? First of all, representation, right? I'm one of them. And two, giving them the tools they need to pass that process and be citizens. So I do see myself into politics in the future. As of right now, I see myself, representing the academic side of it and education, and bringing in more Latinas, into graduate level. We see a lot in undergrad. I want to pull more into the graduate level. And then, quién sabe, maybe later on, I don't know what the future holds, but once I get that DR in front of my name, I'm going all out with it. I'm going to put myself in spaces that my voice will be heard, right? There's colors to my voice.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can use this video for your campaign.
Yes. I agree. I like it.
Did you want to talk about your work with Esperanza?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I love my work at Esperanza. It's a twofold. So Esperanza was the first school that I went to get my education, as far as my associate's degree. Prior to that, I just had my high school diploma from Edison, and I was very timid, right? Because I think college not for me. Like, I don't know, I'm not smart enough to go to college, right? Like, no one at home went to college, so what am I doing? Like, you know what? Let me just go with it. Let me just give it a shot, right? So I'm a risk taker, so obviously it worked out great. It worked out great. I love Esperanza College. You have a lot of representation there. And in there is where you build confidence. In there is where you see yourself beyond what's in front of you. And so on the other side of it, the other fold is I am a transition coordinator for the special education department. And I love to advocate for my Latinos with special needs. That is also my little, I hold a little space in my heart for it. And that's because I have a son with special needs. And I see that there's not enough representation in that realm too. So I'm like, God, there's a lot of realms we need representation and put me where you most feel like, your will be done. But as a transition coordinator, it's really rewarding to be able to help the special needs after high school. So giving them the resources they need, employment, etiquette, job applications, mock interviews, going out into interviews, doing volunteer work, what it looks like to work, the tools that they truly need, HR life skills.
And, lastly, how can people find out more about ALMA? Where can they, find resources?
So ALMA, we have the website for ALMA, which is www.almaleaders.com. There, once they go on there, you will see a whole list of, services and programs we have for first generation students, but also English classes for the community that need that second language. I say second because Spanish is my first. That need that second language to be able to navigate the system and the community. And then also the civic classes, which is coming soon.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
I would say, again, going back to the good question you asked me, you asked me all great questions, but there's one that stood out the most for me, which was, what will you say to your younger self? And I say, you're worthy. I want to say to all Latinas, you are worthy. Whether the circumstances, whether the family dynamics, you are worthy. Keep striving, keep pushing through, seek out to ALMA. We're here. I know your lived experience, so I'm here to represent you and give you the tools you need to excel. Because we belong in places where decisions are being made.